Buonasera a tutti. Good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Viviana and I would like to welcome back our regular listeners and also welcome any new listeners. Also be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on any past video interviews. Vorrei dare il benvenuto ai nostri ascoltatori da tutto il mondo. Grazie per essere con noi anche oggi mentre continuiamo il nostro viaggio per l'Italia e la cultura italiana. So I'm very honored today to have both MaryLou and Jerome Bongiorno, who are Emmy-nominated, award-winning husband and wife filmmakers who formed the Bongiorno production. And with their work, they have gained international accolades. Some of the conversations that we'll have today might go around their production on Mother Tongue, Italian Sons and Mothers, Columbus on Trial, and one of the latest projects that will return to Italy, along with their commitment to their community. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere. Parli italiano? Do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Mondo Italiano offers small group classes and one-on-one private tutoring in person or online to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at istitutomondoitaliano.org. Well, buongiorno to the buongiorno. How are you today?
Ciao bene, tutto bene, grazie.
I'm sure you're getting that, you got that 100 times while you were in Italy, right?
Yeah, I wonder, everybody knew us.
Yes.
For some reason.
You probably didn't have to spell it.
No, it was absolutely a joy to hear it.
Yeah, so as I said, it's a true pleasure and honor for me to have you because your work is so proliferous, so interesting, and I hope that in this hour that we'll have together, we'll cover, just enough, scratch the surface, and maybe in the future organize something together at Istituto Mondo Italiano. So even though the Bongiorno gives it away, but I know that MaryLou, you also have your maiden name Tibaldo, right? Can you tell us what part of Italy your family might be originally from?
Yes, from the Veneto.
Ah, that's the Veneto connection. We'll be talking about that.
Yes, we have a north-south dynamic, which is wonderful. Because we were just in Veneto and we were just in Sicilia, which is Jerome's parents and family. Yes.
Okay, so you really cover from top to bottom and everything in between. So now I'm going to get personal, okay? Now I always, whenever there is such a, affiatata, such a team, both in the professional and the personal life, I might dig a little deeper about how did you meet? Was it something already related to filmmaking or just a serendipitous event?
We met in college. You want to tell the story, Jerome?
Yeah, we were both biology majors. In fact, we graduated as biologists. So this idea of film is, that's like going to Mars for us. Or it was like going to Mars because what did we know about film except, we enjoyed going to see films together. But then some years later, we became filmmakers. You could fill her in on that.
Yes.
And MaryLou, you're also, with the New York University, right? So
yeah, the graduate program at New York University at NYU was very seminal in this process. So we both indirectly studied there and had wonderful teachers. Like Spike Lee was my mentor. Met Martin Scorsese through that process as well of being students, and he's actually in one of our films.
Yeah, well, actually, you just mentioned, you just dropped some names there, just, but let's take maybe one at a time and let's talk about some of your work that I think is super important that features more the dynamics of your local community. So your kind of 3 R's, the Rule, Rust, and Revolution 67. And I believe also Spike Lee somehow, I don't know if it is part of these projects, but tell us a little bit, what was the impetus? What was your, how did you come up with these 3R, this trilogy that is very fascinating.
So I was born and raised and spent my entire life in the city of Newark, New Jersey, which is where we live now. And for many decades, we've been under a stigma of riots, revolution, rebellion here in Newark that happened in 1967. So Jerome and I wanted to explore that story of what happened. There was a very prominent Italian-American community here in Newark at that time, and other communities, obviously, and the African-American community as well. So the first film, which is Revolution 67 that you mentioned, originated at NYU because as my thesis film was called 1967, it's what I worked on with Spike Lee as mentor. And because his films often explore the dynamic between African-American, Italian-American peoples, we were able to create this film and then explore more about it. You want to say something about how the other films evolved then from that, from Revolution?
Well, you know, because we live in Newark, Newark has a high poverty rate. Because of poverty, you know, you have a lot of issues. You have a lot of misery, you have crime, and everything that comes along with poverty. So we wanted to know why the city is filled with poverty, and then not only do we want to know the history of that and why it remains, but what are the solutions? So that created, you know, Revolution 67. That created The Rule, and that created Rust.
So we started with problems, but we wanted to also explore solutions.
Exactly, and if we can, and also you can dive in a little bit about you know, the whole process of working together, whether it's a collaborative effort or one is of the other, or one takes care of one aspect of the project and the other one different aspect. But while you're discussing that, eventually, if we can elaborate more on The Rule, because I found it very fascinating. I was listening to your TED Talk, and so I got a little glimpse of what part of the project might be about. And so first, a little bit of how you collaborate, where it's like total symbiosis, or it's like, I'll do my thing, you know, and then we'll come back together. And then eventually, if we talk about The Rule.
Two-person band here. We we do all of the creative work on each of the films. So I am the producer, director, co-screenwriter, and then Jerome is, in addition to doing a little of that as well, is also primarily the cinematographer, the editor, the animator, sound, music, and most importantly, I think too, is animation. That we could talk a little bit about that as well. So I will say this about The Rule. The Rule was quite an experience for us as the second film in the trilogy that you just mentioned, which we call the 3 Rs. It is the story of this incredible institution here in Newark, right in our neighborhood, in our community, in our midst, called St. Benedict's Prep and Newark Abbey. And they have had enormous success educating inner city young people. It was originally young men, and now it has branched into young women. And it all goes back to St. Benedict of Nursia, and The Rule, which is his, you want to say something about The Rule, but this is, you know, going back to an Italian source, right?
It's basic needs. You know, what does a community need to function, to maintain itself? And that's what this school in Newark does. And they provide an environment for the kids that give these students what they need to be educated. You know, when we say in inner cities in the United States that the educational system fails the kids, well, that's it exactly. That the education system fails the kids because they're not giving those children what they need. You know, we all need something special. You know, you can't go into a store and just try on any pair of shoes. You got to have the shoes that fit you. And so an educational system to work for you has to fit you. And that's what these monks do. They create an educational system that fits the children that go to their school. And so these children succeed. And they succeed because they also go on to college and they graduate college. And that takes them out of poverty.
And yeah, obviously, throughout the documentary, you can perceive, also share some information first of all, about some of the issues that students, kind of their baggage, they come to the classroom, but not with a mind that is free and ready to learn and absorb, because they might have traumatic situations at home, or as soon as they walk out their house and so forth. So it's really hard to talk about history and math if we're dealing with image of violence, sounds of violence, and things like that.
Yeah, but let me just interrupt you for a second. What you just said is all true, but that is not true in the head of a very conservative person. People who are conservative don't want to believe that that exists. And because they don't want to believe that that exists, those problems persist and persist and persist.
So, and then, the success story about the rule and the order is, if I remember some stats accurately, I think there is nearly 100% acceptance to college, right? So that's a huge success, because education, to me, is the true power that every individual has. Really nothing else. Not going to be money, it's not going to be other things, but you educate your nation, you educate every single individual, and that's just the path for success for everyone, not just that individual person.
We were just discussing that in terms of Sicily. They have a mafia problem, and so a big issue with getting rid of the mafia is education. Bring your people out of a state of poverty or ignorance. Well, how do you do that? You do it through education, and that's something that gets rid. That's a huge thing that will get rid of the mafia.
So, talking about education, there is also another figure that I think you have, Mother Cabrini, that you are doing shows in New York. So, tell us about also this figure that has been entering, that my cousin in Italy came from the order of Madre Cabrina, because she's from Codogno. So for us, we kind of grew up. But tell us a little bit about your work on your documentary.
Yes. So Jerome and I have a series on PBS now called American Women Saints.
Oh,
and 2 separate episodes. The first is on Mother Seton, Elizabeth Ann Seton, and the second is on Mother Cabrini, so Frances Xavier Cabrini. That film for us, and it is streaming for a limited time, both of them, on pbs.org. So anyone can watch, and we encourage you to do so, because Mother Cabrini is a powerhouse of energy, of passion, a developer who created an environment, who saw a need and addressed it, corrected it, worked hard, bring about change. And so she's an enormous inspiration to us. And I was going to say, I was just checking because the dates there of Benedict. So Saint Benedict of Nursia wrote the rule in 530. Okay, so we're talking about 6th century, of something that has persisted over all of this time, that these monks, these Benedictines here in Newark, are putting into action every day. And so we saw them as living saints in many ways, and that influenced our telling of Mother Cabrini's story, which is a highly unique way. I mean, our film is told as though she's speaking to us from beyond, and it's in the first person. She speaks nonstop for 86 minutes. Very language. She has a lot to say.
It's pretty exhausting when you watch it, and because we imagine that if we had actually met Saint Frances Cabrini, that she would absolutely exhaust us, because if you read about her life, it's exhausting.
Interesting. I mean, so interesting to us that she was the first American saint, a woman.
Yeah.
From Codogno,
An Italian American.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly powerful, because, in the patriarchy of the Catholic Church, she had to cope with that, male dominated environment, and yet made her mark. Not for herself, as she says over and over. She is doing this to serve God. And it's very clear that the way you do that, or her lesson to us, is by serving others.
So talking about Mother Cabrini, kind of talking to us for about 60 minutes, you have also another piece of work that is very well known, Columbus on Trial. And you have a very unique approach to how you put your work together. And I'm going to let you share with the audience what was kind of again, your approach to make this project come to fruition. So Jerome, would you like us to tell us more?
Yeah, well, Columbus on Trial is basically Columbus being put on trial. And we use current questions about his role in slavery, about his role in, just going into another country and taking people over. How can somebody do that? That kind of thing. So we wanted to answer those questions in the context of Columbus coming back today to stand trial. And what he does is he meets with his lawyer, I guess his advocate, and she kind of preps him for what people are going to be asking him. Defend yourself, Captain. Defend yourself against these accusations. And that's what he does. And we did a lot of research for this movie. And he talks about the day in and day out things that he had to deal with, and he tries to refute. Actually, he doesn't try to refute anything. He just tries to tell the truth of what went on when he was governor.
So if you have a prologue usually that kind of introduces the Columbus on Trial. And also when you talk about the research, you also want to make a point. You're trying to strip it out of like our 21st century bias and bring it back. So that's why the characters within, and if you want to mention the names of the actors, are not from the same time period. There is this dynamic of, and then paintings that might depict Columbus that have been taken down. So tell us a little more about these, this process.
Let me just say something about the prologue. Yeah, we like to make stuff like Prologue because a lot of the people who make comments about Columbus or a lot of people don't understand the context in which some people lived. And you have to understand the context of their life before you pass judgment on them. So that's what the Prologue is about. It's about educating people to the context, the reality that Columbus lived.
Yes. And I was just looking at just two notes about that I wanted to emphasize. One is you mentioned, Viviana, that it's 21st century look. And what we did in this film is we took a 15th century explorer of great fame, Columbus, and we paired him with an 18th century woman, Elizabeth Powell, not a likely pairing. Someone who was close to George Washington, actually was considered a confidant of his during very difficult times that dealt with similar issues that Columbus presented. I mean, coming into, how to, with Native Americans at that point, what he called Indians, the whole slavery, the whole evolution here was to look over the course of 300 years and bring us into our present time to keep putting these issues in context that Jerome just outlined. So Bob Puccioli is Columbus. He's also the lead in our other film, our current film project, which is Our Return to Italy. And Sophie Sorensen plays Elizabeth Powell. Wonderful actors who captivate us with this polemic. They're constantly, going back and forth. And then the ending of the film is ask the question of the audience making this decision based on what's been presented. So that was important to us. And the prologue is a documentary, also in first person, Columbus narration, telling his story, which really brings us into the times and gives us the context, the historical context for what was happening and what Columbus's goals were at that time.
Yeah, and see also what I perceive that Columbus and Trial has been shown at different Italian institutions with the debates prior and after, and from scholars to other people that watched it, and the main thing is to build a dialogue. We might not see eye to eye. Let's hear each other out. And then everyone is going to make their own conclusions, because also the way that we interpret history changes over time. We're looking at certain events in a different way, and we might have taken a stand in a certain 10 years ago, now 20 years from now. But as long as we can keep the dialogue open and go from there.
Well, I think not to interrupt, but I think one of the problem is with some people is that they just don't want to look at the history. They don't want to educate themselves as to the facts.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that. I can't see how you can argue anything. I can't, especially the question of Columbus. Learn the facts and then you talk.
Yeah, because to the actual statue, people say it's made up because of the New Orleans lynching. Others say, oh, it's the representation of the Italian. So there are people relate to that, whether the statue, the character, the concept, in many different ways for many different reasons. Because then, you go to Italy and we might have, obviously a statue here or there, but we don't have a celebration. Not that we discount an explorer. But maybe he was more of a Spanish hero than an Italian one, because of where he ended up dying and so forth. But tackling issues is not something that you're new to. It's like Columbus, and before, when you MaryLou mentioned Venice. So Venice is something also that you have addressed with Watermark. Tell us a little bit about this lovely project and how we have Venice and US, I believe, together.
Yes, absolutely. So Watermark is a film project that we've been nurturing. That is the story. It's a love story between scientists that come from New Orleans and a biologist who comes from New Orleans and meets someone in Venice who is similarly working on the environmental issues there. It all centers around the Mosè, the dams that actually, when Jerome and I were recently in Venice in April, there was flooding. So there was the question of, are we going to raise the Mosè to protect the city? So the Mosè centers in this story. It is still a very active story, even though this dam has been built. These dams, there are environmental consequences. So we created this story. We made shorts about it. We made a documentary. We've called Protecting New Orleans, Saving Venice. A wonderful scholar, Dr. Sabrina Vellucci from Università Roma III, has written extensively about, as a scholarly look at the films we made about comparing New Orleans to Venice. They have many similarities. Certainly the flooding is one of the major issues, but it's just because it's Venice. And because there's more to Venice than just its magnificence and beauty, but there is this urgency about preserving Venice, saving Venice. You hear that, saving Venice. And what are the ecological ramifications of all these decisions that are being made, or the crowds that are coming in, or the cruise ships, that have fairly recently been banned from coming into the lagoon. So that's really of interest to us. And of course, we frame it in a story that's very palatable, which is a love story.
And and obviously very relatable, because I guess now Venice has also included that tax. And I'm actually curious to learn more about how it rolls out and has rolled out, because I think it's already in effect. But again, a topic of current sensitivity. A little bit of your biology background played into it as well?
Oh yeah, our biology background plays
Definitely.
into
Everything.
everything.
From even the scientific method, right? The hypothesis and then testing things out to experimentation. And it's very interesting because since we started this project, we understood from Venice and our colleagues there, scientists there, friends there, that these problems are very relevant today. So we are looking at ways to put this in to our return to Italy that
Mhm.
we'll be filming in October, because we feel that this is a
Mhm.
great opportunity to address what's been a long-standing issue. And as you know, issues like this, they're of great magnitude. They don't just go away.
Mhm.
There isn't a band-aid. So, for a sustainable Venice, and I can't say how many people I even read this morning, people saying that other family members saying how Venice is their most favorite place in the
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
It is incredible. Yeah, we
Yep.
screened actually Revolution 67. You mentioned our trilogy. We screened it at Ca' Foscari and
Oh
had a
yes, the
wonderful
Oh yes, yes, the
discussion.
university. They're a very prestigious university there. Yeah. So.
We just screened it there. It was a wonderful opportunity to speak with international students, not
Mhm.
only about what's happening in Newark in that film, but in their communities, in their world, and certainly in Venice where they're living.
I'm going to divert a little bit. We'll come back to our return to Italy, but there is a project. I haven't seen much of it. I mean, there is written a lot about it, but I haven't had access. So maybe mother tongue. Okay. So this has been an award, Emmy Award nominee in 2000, mother tongue, Italian American sons and mothers. I'm expecting, ciao, ma, come stai? Hai mangiato? What's for lunch? At what time are you coming home? And then about hours later, again, hi, ma.
I don't say that's exactly you. Oh my goodness, you're prescient. It's wonderful.
So tell us who are the protagonists, the kind of the set of the sons and the mothers. So some of them, well, actually all of them are pretty recognizable names, and the mothers might have made their debut for the first time, but not for everyone. Someone has already been on the set a few times. So whoever wants to take it away, tell us a little bit about the idea behind. Was there also
Yes.
a specific instance, or maybe during your trips to Italy and seeing these queste telefonate morbose, like 20 of them a day? And then, some people from other cultures is like, I talk to my parents once every, 2 weeks or something. It's like, well, what do you mean? So tell us a little bit about, what triggered these mother tongue, and then eventually elaborate more on who is being interviewed and the dynamics that you observed.
Then Jerome can speak personally.
Oh my
Being an
God!
Italian
If
son.
if I talked to my mother every 2 weeks, she would write me out of the will instantly. No, I could never do that. It's got to be a daily kind of thing.
The impetus came from his family, cousins, who, it was very interesting. The son wanted to take over the family's restaurant business, and the family had different ideas. His parents had different ideas for his future, and so it was this clash of old school, new school coming in with new ideas. And we made this short film called Mother Tongue as an assignment at NYU's graduate film program. And that documentary blossomed into this larger piece, which prompted us, because we made that film, we wanted to speak to more Italian American men and discuss, in particular in our film, why they included their mothers in their life's work. That was in some way how that had an impact on their life's work and choosing, right? So yes, so right. So, and Jerome can speak about the dynamics there, but Martin Scorsese is, prominent because of his mother's appearance in his films from his student days at NYU. So he was also at NYU Film School, and we found some of the footage of that. So his mother has a long history in appearing, and he details that history, and it's very rich and very colorful and very interesting, right? So like Alfred Hitchcock used to make little appearances, and some of his films,
Mm-hmm.
felt this was kind of a stamp, right, of Scorsese's. So obviously he's included, but there are also wonderful characters in this. From, you want to mention some highlights there of the others? I mean, Pat DiNizio.
Oh, one of my favorite bands, the Smithereens. We got to interview Pat DiNizio, who's unfortunately left this earth, but we were able to capture him and his mother. So, you know, it was great for us to film that.
But his spirit, his music is still with us, very strong.
Come back, Pat.
Yeah,
come back.
And that dynamic, because we had gone to concerts and we would see his mother in the audience, you know, and these are, you know, blasting music, you know, it's not the most pleasant environment, packed, smoke filled at the time, right? Alcohol flowing. And here's this woman who is there for her son. And it was just incredible for us to meet them and to capture that. And the others too are very colorful characters. Everyone had something to offer us. It was a joy to film. Yes.
Well, we had the Giuliani, so Rudy and Helen. We had the Turturros with John and Catherine. And did anyone need any prompt? I would expect that these were like free flowing. Keep on shooting, keep on shooting.
Italian American men talking about their mothers. Oh, no way.
And you know, the idea of you know, mama's boy, mamoni, you know, this whole, it takes on a different definition in Italy if we made that film in Italy today, because we were just there, and we, you know, these are relationships, bonds that are so incredibly strong that you know, well into adulthood, well beyond, you know, their 20s or 30s. Some Italian men are still living with their mothers or their fathers, or, you know, and or have just an incredible relationship with that dynamic of the family, right?
Yeah, even because, I mean, there is a closer knit, you know, the moving out of your city or so forth, unless, you know, now we're a little more transient, we move more. Most of my peers have moved overseas. But for those that have stayed, there is indeed that possibly daily contact. I mean, you might be leaving when possible, so 15 minutes away from your parents. And also that is the consideration, because then there is the figure and the role of nonni. So it's kind of a tie, a bond that continues over generations. It's not just being the children and the parents, and then the children become parents and the parents become nonni, and then you have the grandchildren. It's, you know, it's just kind of so
That's it.
yeah, that's life. So before we get to talk about your latest and the greatest project, I do have a couple of words from our sponsors. Applying for Italian citizenship? Need documents translation? Istituto Mondo Italiano provides certified translations and assistance services. Be sure to visit us at istitutomondoitaliano.org and schedule your free consultation. Un caffè, per favore. My first cup of coffee sets the tone for my entire day, and I get my coffee at La Prima Espresso. La Prima has been brewing Pittsburgh's best coffee for nearly 35 years. Try any of their in-house roasty varieties of beans from all over the world at home, or come and enjoy an espresso or a cappuccino at any of their locations, where their friendly baristas and familiar faces will make you feel at home. Visit laprima.com to get La Prima Espresso coffee at your door. So you were pointing to a beautiful card. So Sam Patty, I'm sure you will be listening to this episode because your dear friends, MaryLou and Jerome.
Our conversations with Sam, Patty, have been incredibly enlightening, stimulating, particularly as we discuss Italy today, Italian Americans today.
Right.
We're very grateful to Sam for his.
Right. Why would Italian Americans go back and see where their father or their grandparents or their bisnonni came from? Why? What's the point? What's the purpose of doing that? What do you get from doing that?
Yeah. And it's funny because I was having a conversation, you heard that we do assist in dual citizenship applications, and we are getting also the younger and younger applicants. So now we're talking about their grandfather or sometimes even their great-grandfather. And some of the instances, I might even know the town where the family came from, towns that might not be as vibrant as they used to be back in maybe the 50s or the 60s, but there is that appeal. And what is interesting is that this year is the roots tourism, okay, and we'll talk about how that affects your project. But the newer generation that has decided to take in, like, be committed to their the heritage and go beyond maybe just the stereotypes or just kind of it's cool to be Italian, reflect upon the fact that once they go back to Italy, they can't really explain, but they feel complete and at home, as if kind of their soul knows where the origin is from, even if, And the other one is that, yeah, when I talk to my grandfather, the grandfather says, why are you going there? There is nothing there. And the grandchildren that live in the US find these places magical because some of them are, I don't want to say stuck in time, but maybe there is a sense of discovery, again, this unconscious belonging there, even if they've never lived there. So elaborate a little bit, because I think our return to Italy from the title, I think ties into this theme.
Yes, we did not know that this would be declared the year of Italian roots tourism. So it's
You are totally precursors, pioneers.
very, very perfect timing, because we'll be filming in October the longer version of Il nostro ritorno in Italia with the family actually in Italy. So
Tell us a little bit about the story, because some people might not be familiar with it.
oh, certainly.
Mhm.
So we made a 30-minute short film
Mhm.
called Our Return to Italy, about a family of New Jersey winemakers, Italian Americans, who have a family member who is biracial, who's African American,
Mhm.
and also that they all work together. So the three women in it are all scientists. It's a multi-generational family. Well, two women are scientists, and the granddaughter is a filmmaker, so I consider her a scientist in some ways. And it's an exploration of Italian culture, our heritage, through clips of classic films, because the granddaughter is a filmmaker who is obsessed with Italian cinema,
Mhm.
principally the neorealists, and then subsequent to that, Fellini, Antonioni,
All the
Rossellini,
big
all of
ones.
these,
Mhm.
yes. And we see clips of their work.
Mhm.
And because there is some documentary footage. We also understand how the history of wine and how wine is made in it. So the film is a hybrid of fiction, this fictional story about this family, the nono, the daughter, the granddaughter, and their assorted relatives, and the fact that the grandfather has discovered that he has an illness that is only known to him. He has not shared it, but he has made a decision, even prior to really knowing fully his health, that he wants to uproot this winery and bring everybody to Italy. And because they're all working together, they all have to go.
They have no choice.
And this is not, these are not retirees that are, we hear the story of retirees going to Italy. This is a working family going into an environment of winemaking that is very competitive to begin with in
Mhm.
Italy.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, and they are going to the Veneto region. The Veneto
Mhm.
Film Commission has supported us in this project,
Wonderful.
and we had just done this entire location scouting tour and worked with people and got wonderful ideas for stories of what could be brought to the Italian version of this, and that's what we're preparing for right now. Very excited to do it in this year of Italian roots tourism.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And so obviously these projects don't come for free. So obviously where there are the production efforts. So tell us a little bit about how, because obviously not only these, but also your other documentaries can serve as tools, a dialogue tool, education tool, to have those conversations, to reflect, to exchange opinions. So tell us a little bit about how we can support you to make this project come to fruition and afterwards.
As we develop all of our films, we're constantly relying upon enlightened leadership and corporations, individuals, cultural organizations to support the work. Fortunately, PBS has been a wonderful distributor. People have access to our films nationally in Canada and through streaming services that we use, like Canopy, where you can see some of our films, that they are visible throughout the world. So that's important to us, that it is, as you said, Viviana, an educational tool, a cultural tool. And the point of making this film is to awaken our Italian Americanness, to understand our culture and history through the adventures of this family in particular. So we do accept, donations that provide tax deductions for people. So they're not investors, they are contributors, supporters who get this tax benefit for themselves by donating to one of our nonprofit fiscal sponsors. It's a model that is often used. We've used it for all of our films, and it allows us the freedom, the flexibility to make the films that we want. And as with this film, the goal is to bring it to PBS, to national audiences, so that they will have access. For example, you mentioned the American Women Saints. Those documentaries are streaming right now, as I said, on pbs.org for anyone to watch for free in the territory of the United States. And it's very important for us to make these films accessible to people, to be able to watch them, and to learn from them, and us to learn from people watching, having dialogues. That's very, very important. So our website is bongiornoproductions.com, and so we are very grateful for any support and happy to discuss it. Thank you.
We'll definitely indicate that in the show notes. And so when is your next trip to Italy to maybe start filming? During Vendemmia? Any stomping for you? Any grape stomping for you, Jerome?
Yes, we're getting ready for the harvest. Vendemmia, right? The harvest is coming. We are getting ready for the autumn, but tonight we have a film that we shot in Sicily, screening in Sicily. At the film festival in Alcamo this evening. Wish we could be there physically, but we are getting ready to film in Sicily again next spring. So while we're in Italy this fall, we will be doing our project in the north, in Veneto, and then heading south to Sicilia to prepare for the next film there.
Wonderful. One more question that is for Jerome, because Jerome, you have also another passion, and that includes guitars, right? Music.
Right. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. You see, if there is any project around that, or just a passion for the few lucky ones.
I've played the guitar, my whole life, and I play jazz guitar. And what we do is we go around to soup kitchens, hospitals, really any charity event, and I play jazz guitar. And it's soothing, it's relaxing for people to listen to, and I play a lot of Italian favorites, Vola, and people love it, and of course we love it.
It's a very soothing version, and Jerome also plays for charity galas and events. He does pretty regularly. So if anyone's listening, watching, who has a charity event, that's his passion, is to volunteer to do. So he's very available. Correct? We are available. We've met wonderful people. He also provides a soundtrack for our films.
Uh-huh.
It's gone back from years and years to the present time. So to have an in-house musician composing new music, doing, the American Songbook, the International Songbook, we'll say, has been very uplifting for me personally. And it's been cool to meet people and see how they react to music, particularly the Italian songs. Yes, absolutely. Beautiful music.
Tu sia male femmina.
We want to have a second episode. More of this, but definitely, it was very well deserved to be featured in profiles of Italian Americans that achieving the dream and giving back, because also with what you just talked about, the giving back and is a big component of your work and your philosophy. So unfortunately, our time together is up. Il Big Ben ha detto stop. It's time for us to say arrivederci e alla prossima. We want to thank you for tuning in into the program. If you have any questions or comments, or if you have any topics you would like us to address, please contact us at theitalianradiohour@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Remember, if you or any of your family and friends have missed a prior episode or would like to listen to this episode again, subscribe to the Italian Radio Hour on YouTube and where you catch your favorite podcasts. Again, I would like to thank my dynamic duo, MaryLou and Jerome Bongiorno, our sponsors, Istituto Mondo Italiano and La Prima Espresso. And until next time, alla prossima. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, grazie tanto, mille, grazie mille.
Grazie a voi.